Welcome back to the channel. A lot to unpack, a lot to talk about this week. Want to take an opportunity to go through some of the most recent headline inflation points, talking about the Bank of Canada, what that could mean for them on December 11th, when we will hear from Governor Tiff Macklem about their next policy rate decision. And more importantly, as these rates continue to move lower and lower, what is it doing to potential home buyers, first-time buyers, move-up buyers? What type of product are these individuals really concentrating on? And what are some of the stumbling blocks or roadblocks that are going to be laid ahead of a lot of these first-time move-up buyers when they're looking at single-family homes? And we'll unpack our thoughts and opinions this week on the channel. We invite you to subscribe to the channel if you have not already done so. And don't forget to hit that notification bell so you can stay up to date with what's happening in the mortgage and real estate marketplace. But most importantly, we want to hear from you, our viewers. Make sure to drop a comment, leave a question or concern in the comment section below. But let's get right into it. So right now we have a lot of things basically playing into the hands of what I believe to be higher home prices for single family detached home. I'm extremely bullish on single family homes moving forward. And based on the fact that, yes, even though CPI data came in a lot hotter than expected, a lot of that to do with lower, basically not as low gas prices as we saw in the month of September, but also increased property taxes. There are obviously increases in food, CPI core medium trim, all numbers across the board have ticked up. But I mean, those are obviously the numbers. The Bank of Canada will look at that. I think they'll look through and say, yeah, we understand. We did talk about this, that inflation is going to be floating around that 2% mark. We're at 1.6, little deflationary, back up to 2%. Still gives the Bank of Canada the cover it needs to continue to cut, maybe not as aggressively as 50 basis points, but definitely at least 0.25%, and we'll see that trend continuing on. And that is what the consensus is amongst economists and analysts. Obviously, the Bank of Canada has very little option but to continue to cut, especially with the new president going to be brought into power in 2025, and his policies, how they could be potentially inflationary to the Canadian economy. I mean, this is what we're seeing and happening right now. Obviously, this is the conversation. And in order to do that, the strengthening US dollar, the weakening loonie, as this continues to be a volatile component of the Canadian economy, the Bank of Canada, in a nutshell, will have to counter-react that by potentially lowering its overnight lending rate to spur and stimulate the Canadian economy, as we've definitely faced significant headwinds here in Canada, not as resilient as the US. So ultimately, as we see this, the sentiment changes, we start to see this slight shift. Pre-approvals are increasing, attention and attraction to homes. People are out there shopping around. We're definitely seeing it. October numbers show more activity in the housing segment. But what are these individuals looking for? I mean, from what we see is ultimately single family homes, those towns, those semis, those single car detached, those double car move up buyers looking for a single family home, not a condo. And this is why I'm extremely bullish on the single family home. And the reason why I say that is because, well, we have so many roadblocks that have been put ahead of builders that the government has tried to initialize builders to get out there and build, and they're just not building the product. What the product is those single family homes that Canadians want, right? They're building a whole bunch. We've built a whole ton of condos for investors, are driven directly and catered to for investors. And we've failed to deliver on the homes that Canadians need and want. And this has obviously put us behind the eight ball. When you think about, obviously, Canada, Ontario, here at a 69, 70-year low in building of single family homes. But you might say, Ant, well, I looked at the stats and for the month of October, we're up. And yes, we are up, but you have to ask yourself, what are they building, right? They're not building single family homes at the same pace as they're building rental units, right? Remember, the government has a huge incentive to build purpose-built rentals. And they have brought in all these measures, and obviously a lot of them. We talk about the Home Accelerator Fund, right? They designed to accelerate building, but it has failed to do that. I mean, all it's done is really inflate bureaucracy and line the pockets of all these basic government bodies that are trying to almost sideline a lot of these building projects through permits, environmentals, reports, the cost associated with actually delivering the product. So you have to ask yourself the question, what is it that's holding up the development? Well, builders want to build, but builders want to build when it's best to build. Now, anybody that owns a business or understands business sentiment, you're not going to go out there and lose money on building a home if there's no buyers for your product, or if there's no one that's actually going to be able to qualify or afford the product in which you are going to deliver. So this is obviously putting builders at a position right now where they have to really think about what inventory they are going to bring to the market and when they will be bringing that inventory to the market. Remember, who owns the land? Is it Crown land? Is it developer land? Is it privately owned? These are the questions. I mean, ultimately, you can't put a gun to the builder's head and say, you need to build or else, right? At the end of the day, the builder will just say, you know what? We're okay. We're going to hold off. And that's what we're starting to see. That's what we're hearing from a lot of people. Even though the city of Vaughan has definitely pushed, to get these projects off the ground, the fact that there could be around $200,000 to $300,000 in taxation added into the cost of that newly built single family home, depending on the size and obviously what type of home it is. But that's dollars that are going to be passed on, not to the builder, not to the city, to the end user. And with home prices in most of these hot pockets, obviously tickling or over that 1%, that $1 million mark, I mean, the percentage of taxes to that home are obviously making it even more unattainable. And yes, we could have a shift in government in the next little while, maybe an election at some point in 2025 or sooner. This may change the tides of what could happen with housing. But at the end of the day, even with a new power, a new administration, a conservative government with Pierre Poilievre at the head, we have to really ask ourselves the question, how long will it take to change these rules? And once those rules are changed, how long will it take for the sentiment to change to get builders off the sideline? Builders are right now incentivized to build purpose-built rentals. That is what the government is incentivizing. They're giving them major kickbacks, major actual, benefits to building that type of inventory. And we see that happening even in the consumer space, obviously the individual space, because the government wants to change the rules, right? So not only are we seeing the 30-year amortization coming into effect in December, that new purchase price of 1.5, we're seeing in the new year, January, the ability to refinance your home, right? Actually go up to 90% loan to value, increasing the amount of leverage on the home up to $2 million, but to build a purpose-built rental, a laneway, or a garden suite. We look at this and say, government can't build the 3.1 million homes that they're promising, so they're going to pass it on to maybe individual investors that will be able to do it. But the banks and the government are basically hammering or hand tying a lot of these investors. Trying to get a mortgage as an investor is a near nightmare for many of those who are seasoned investors trying to bring inventory to the market. So it's really a tale of two stories here right now. And as investors are fleeing, especially those in the condo market, pretty much gone, and single family homes being way too expensive for them to even cash flow, well, it's going to be up to the builders and the government to really incentivize this. And we're definitely seeing some problems. And especially when we look back at what Doug Ford tried to do with introducing, opening up land and replacing land in the Greenbelt so that we can build more homes. And that quickly got killed off, whether it be, some conspiracies or, obviously the environmental concerns. At the end of the day, unfortunately, we are landlocked in certain parts of the province. And most of the individuals, especially when we talk about immigration, we've had this huge influx of new arrivals over the past few years. These individuals prefer to reside in Ontario. And Ontario, as I said, has only built around 5,000 new homes. We're definitely seeing some problems. We don't see builders actually coming to the forefront. Now, as I said, that's just what we're noticing and what clients are coming to us and saying, look, we're starting to notice multiple offers, bidding wars, higher prices, removal of conditions like financing and home inspection on a lot of these single family homes. They're not necessarily translating into higher prices, right? Individuals are looking at those homes, they're selling, they're moving. And ultimately, as we start to extrapolate that, will it mean that as less and less people bring homes, they list less listings, more people, buyers wanting to buy those homes? Well, eventually something's going to give. And I believe it's a simple equation of if we're not building the single family homes and people want them, well, how bad do they want them and how much are they willing to pay for them? That is just unfortunately the way the housing market works, whether you agree or disagree. I know there's going to be a lot of people that are probably going to say, well, homes are already too expensive and so on and so forth. And yes, I get it. That is unfortunately the problem here. And we've let that get away. How will this all get remedied? in the future, in the next 6, 12 to 18 months, I do think that single family homes will see a significant appreciation as more and more buyers that get off the sidelines continue to chase that product, especially with the Bank of Canada continuing to signal it will be lowering rates at least until 2025. So we'll see how that all plays out. But I want to hear from your viewers. What do you think is going to happen in the single family space? Home prices are going to escalate. And what does that mean for the future of single family homes? Let me know in the comment section below. But until next week, thanks again for stopping by, and we'll see you next week.